USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
In 1989, I was getting ready to graduate from high school. At the time, I knew two things. One, I wanted to go to college. Two, I didn't feel I was ready to go to college. So in 1989, I joined what was called DEPS, which was the Delayed Entry Program. The shortest enlistment that they had was as an 88 hotel, and I had no idea what that was. That is what's called a stevedore, or a cargo handler. So I took that. That was only like 2.5 years. I was like, let me do that. If I like it, I can always re-enlist, or I can get out in 2.5 years and go to college. Before I joined the Army, I really didn't drink that much. I never smoked, and I never drank coffee. And by the time I was at my first duty station, I learned how to swear, smoke, drink alcohol, and drink coffee. Yeah. When we landed in Kuwait, I'm walking out and I'm talking to the person next to me, and I'm like, man, it's really hot, you know? I thought we got away from the jet wash from the plane. And you turn around, there is no plane. That's the heat coming off the tarmac from being in Kuwait. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. It was already like 115 degrees out. And it was like, holy cow. We were in Iraq for about maybe a week and a half. We had just completed what's called the left seat, right seat drive, which was basically transitioning from one unit outgoing to the incoming unit. We were going out on our own for the first time. We were originally, I think, supposed to leave at 10 o'clock at night. Well, Iraqis usually aren't the fastest moving people. And we didn't end up leaving till like after 11. So already that's a bad omen. So we drive out of Sykes and we head down the road and we get into Afar, and we're driving around the outside of Afar. And my driver says to me, Sergeant First Class Sensible, goes, sir, weren't we supposed to turn coming up here? Major Jackson, who was in charge of the convoy, didn't realize until we were outside of the city that he had missed the turn. So we stopped. He calls a halt, and everyone pulls off to the side of the road. And for some reason, instead of getting on the radio, he decided to get out of his vehicle and walk down the line and personally tell everyone that. The whole convoy was going to circle around so he could still be in the lead, and we would then again become the trail element again. We get back on the road. We finally come to where it is. We drive down the road. We get to where we're going. You know, herding Iraqi Jundis, that's what Iraqi privates are called. They're called Jundis. Is like herding cats. Once they got off their trucks, they like disappeared. They like scattered to the wind. So we end up staying there longer than we were supposed to, because after everything was unloaded, we then had to round up all the Jundis to get back into the trucks so we could leave. So that delayed us. So we finally get in the vehicles. Once again, you know, I'm in the last element. We're bringing up the rear. We're about halfway up the road, and all of a sudden we just heard this loud bang outside the vehicle. And everyone in our vehicle knew immediately what that was. We all knew right away that was an IED that had went off. The first night mission of our own, and my vehicle got hit by an IED. We were fortunate. It must not either have been big enough or it didn't go off all the way. I couldn't sleep. I mean, like my nerves were like shot. For the longest time, we didn't say anything. We just sat there and like drank coffee and like smoked cigarettes. Because it's like, what do you say? You know, what is there to say? You know, you're still kind of shaken. I mean, that's why, I didn't want to tell my wife or anything. I didn't tell really anyone in my family for a long time what happened that night. Now that I look back at it, now that I've been seeing someone for counseling and stuff, I can see shortly, maybe maybe a month or two later, I started to exhibit signs that what you would classify now as post-traumatic stress disorder. I used to get very anxious before we would go out. I would smoke at least 4 or 5 cigarettes before we would go out on a mission. I mean, I would rock back and forth. I wouldn't sleep well the night before, and I would, you know, and I would always double, triple check everything. I was responsible for intelligence and operations. So I would work with the Iraqi S2 and occasionally with the S3. We would go up into Kurdistan to Duhok to buy supplies for the Iraqi army. I was what was called a financial operations officer. Duhok was about maybe 2 hours north of Mosul. The houses are clean, they're not bombed out, the streets are clean, and the kids were adorable. They could speak English and they knew exactly who you were. US Army, US Army. And it would be great time up there. I mean, the streets were busy with people. It was like another world. It was like you're in a small European city. I took a picture as you head into Kurdistan. All the way up on top of the mountain is painted the Kurdish flag. 2008, my orders were coming to an end at Fort Dix, and I had just started going to see therapy because one of my NCOs actually told me I should go. You don't realize it at the time. You think it's everyone else that has a problem with you. You don't think you have a problem. And at first, I was diagnosed with seasonal depression, not being able to fit adjustment disorder. I was going to Walter Reed to get examined, and Walter Reed is where the medical review board is. So they look at your case and see what everyone else has recommended. And like anything else with the military, takes time. They move slow. So finally, 2012 comes. The day after my birthday, I get orders saying, you are officially retired, and it was devastating. You kind of knew the day was coming, but still, all these groups that were veteran friendly never hired me. I never even got interviews with, and it was getting very depressing. My marriage, which wasn't going great at the time, basically ended. So I was now out of the Army, a disabled vet who was unemployed, who is now raising 2 kids by himself. It was hard, when I first came home, it was hard. It was hard for the girls at first because, I'd been gone for a while. 3 or 4 years ago, it's coming up on my birthday. And my dad and I used to always go to the VFW and play shuffleboard. And I was completely floored. It was a surprise birthday party, retirement party. They had a cake, and on the cake it said, happy birthday and congratulations on your retirement, Captain Zimbardi. Thank you for what you did. And it was the first time I started to cry that day. I cried more than once. And my girlfriend she's like, I know you never had one. And she was like, I wanted you to have one. And there was a woman in the corner, and she's like, I'm here on behalf of Quilts of Valor. That's what it was called. They made quilts for veterans as a way of thanking them for service to the country. And it just blew my mind, and I just started to cry again. Traditionally, we think of the bald eagle as being a symbol of America and the defender of America. I think that was my very first tattoo. The one on my right leg is my team that I spent the most time with, and that's the War Pigs. That way I would have that always as a reminder of being there and the guys that I was with. Now, on my left leg, I got my combat decoration. and that's the combat action badge. You know, with all my other stuff, like my Bronze Star and my ribbons and stuff, I have a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes I love having it out. I love having it displayed because I am proud of my service. I am proud to say that I served my country. But at other times, I don't want to be reminded. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, because I try to help other veterans. I try to help their businesses. I try to help support their causes, because I look at that. A lot of times it seems like we don't get taken care of by our government the way we should be. So we need to take care of our own. And if there's a way I can help other veterans in any way I can, I try to.